Hey, Caleb, can we dim the lights on the stage just a little bit so we can see the projector just a little bit? Yeah. Yeah, they're live. He's recording and everything like that. All right. Good. How does that look? Good. All right, everybody. Oh, everybody, welcome to our 5th Dino Lecture series. We're happy that you guys are here. We got a treat for you today. Today, we are doing our lecture on Ceratopsians and its lineage, presented by Jonathan Hobart. Well, we're very happy to get this lecture started, and I'm going to let Jonathan introduce himself.
Okay, thank you. Hello. So this might be a little more interactive than than you have previously been. So typically, when people are up on stage, you want to be as quiet as possible. But at times, I might ask you some questions. If you just want to shout it out, that'd be okay with me. So first, I want to ask, what is everybody's favorite dinosaur in the room? And literally, the what? Yes, that's definitely one of my favorites. I love the Spino. The Spinosaurus is actually the closest aquatic, thing to an aquatic dinosaur. I guess besides penguins. Penguins can probably be considered an aquatic dinosaur, but there is no such thing as like a fully aquatic dinosaur or fully, besides birds, avian dinosaur as well. So whenever I ask that question, sometimes people say pterodactyl or mosasaurus, and it's more of a trick question sometimes. But I'm proud. Everybody said real dinosaurs. Great, cool. About the Triceratops. I'm sure that really doesn't need an introduction. I'm sure everybody knows what a Triceratops is, but it's a big family, probably bigger than you realize. So today we're going to talk about its family history, its family tree, how it came to be. So the earlier, smaller Ceratopsians up to the big, which this one, Bob the Triceratops here, it's hard to tell size sometimes, but right here, this is about 10 foot at the shoulder. This was a very big individual. So sometimes these Triceratops, or Torosaurus, which I don't have a picture here, these can get very large. Whereas the Protoceratops here probably only, this is a velociraptor about the size of a turkey. So not all of them were really big. But anyway, let's begin. So in this, we're going to go through the introduction. So this is how was it discovered and how they also came to be in the history. We're going to the family tree. Why were they unique? So what made them different than other dinosaurs? Why am I even choosing them to do a lecture? What were the horns and frills for? And Triceratops ontogeny. Ontogeny is the study and process going through from baby to adult. And then at the end, we'll do a Q&A. And I'll try my best to answer any questions you guys have. So in 1887, a man by the name of George Cannon found a couple of horns connected by a fragment of skull. He sent it to a famous American paleontologist named Othniel Charles Marsh. You might recognize him from the Bone Wars, and if you know anything about that, it's a really fascinating thing. And I actually kind of want to do a lecture in the future somewhere about that myself. But he noticed that they were bone cores and much larger horns, kind of like bison today, or bull. So he gave it the name Bison alticornis. A year later, John Bel Hatcher, in the Judith River Formation in Montana, found connected the skull to the neck, which is, actually one of the most perfect spheres that any living creature has created. So this is really neat, and it's preserved quite commonly as well. But this is Ceratops. He realized that it was a dinosaur at this point, so he gave it the name Ceratops, but there wasn't enough material to really classify it truly as a species, so Ceratops really isn't classified as an actual species. But it did give us the name for the Triceratops. Hatcher found a third skull, now a lot more complete, and at this point, Ophthalmologist Marsh was definitely sure that this is now, he realized it resembled a lot to Stegosaurus, so he realized it was connected to the dinosaur of clade, and he named it Triceratops hortus. And it became the first Triceratops. Let's see, and hortus, I think, is one of the more common Triceratops found as well. There are many different types. I'm going to go into John Bel Hatcher for a moment. I think this is one of the more overlooked paleontologists. Not a lot of people know about him, but he was an extremely, for the time, he was very good. He created a name for himself as the King of Collectors. After the Triceratops described in 1888, between 1889 and 1891, he found 31 Triceratops skulls. So they're a little easier, or at least were a little easier than most people might think to find. Skulls are common, the rest of the body's not. He's also known for naming and finding the Protoceratops, which is essentially a really big Triceratops. So this, like I was saying earlier, the other one was about 10 feet at the shoulder. This is also a little bit about that size, 10 feet at the shoulder, so this is a really big animal. These skulls can each reach up to 2 meters long, so like about as tall as I am. If I were to lay down, that's the length of this skull. By the end, the Ceratopsian family had some of the largest skulls to have ever walked on land. While we're on the Protoceratops, I want to go into this a little bit. So we're probably familiar with the Nano Taranis argument, is the Nano Taranis part of the same species as the Tyrannosaurus. Now this is an actual common thing in the paleontology world because we find a lot of different things, and it's hard to know what's baby and what's an adult if we don't really have them today to watch them in series. So we thought that the Torosaurus and the Triceratops were the same. You look, there are a couple differences. The Torosaurus has holes in the frill, which is kind of a sign where it's like, well, they might be the same thing, they might be different things, but as the Triceratops get older, as it gets older, we see it actually thins out in places as well. So some theorize that those holes actually just appeared as it got older. I guess for now, I won't go on too much on it, because right now I think we believe that these are actually two separate things. The Triceratops, although they lived in the same place at the same time, they're two different species. So let's go into the family tree. This is a simplified family tree, because we're going at an end goal. Now, like in the way things through time, there's no really end goal, so when we're going back, we can actually go more kind of a straight line. So that was a simplified family tree. This is a more complex family tree. It's a little pixelated, I apologize, but we see the famous ones like Triceratops is here at the bottom. We'll see a Titanosaur here, which is a sauropod. We see T-Rex right there. I think this is probably the most complete family tree I have found so far. Let's see, we're going to start right here with the Ornithopod. The Ornithopod is, this set off a lot of really famous dinosaurs. This is Upper Jurassic period. And, okay, so it leads to many things, like just hadrosaurs, like Parasaurolophus, the Iguanodon, with the Rhododontidae, sorry, Parasaurolophus there. And by late Cretaceous, they became extremely successful, some of the most successful animals to ever existed, really. And they're known also to have some of the best teeth dentition of any non-avian dinosaur. When I say non-avian, I'm saying that because birds are dinosaurs, if we do not know. So if you hear me say avian, that's what I'm saying. Those are the flying dinosaurs of the birds today. This is not part of this. This is not a relative, more like a cousin to the Triceratops, but the Pachycephalosaurus, which is the headbutt dinosaur. And it's really odd to think about these two being so closely related, because they look nothing alike. One walks on 2 legs, one walks on 4. But the Pachycephalosaurus has very little fossil evidence of the full body. We get a lot of domes. But the dome was around, on average, about 25 centimeters thick and mostly made of temporal bones, which means they healed really quickly and grow really fast. So it's more like a tumor-type bone. They were approximately 4 to 4.5 meters in length, weighing about 1,000 pounds. So they were decent-sized animals. The excavated skeletons, the complete ones, belong to baby dinosaurs and no adults, so it's very speculative on what the adults' size were. Once again, we have another argument about the Dracorex being the same as the Pachycephalosaurus. I think this is still going on today. They think that the Dracorex is really just a baby Pachycephalosaurus. It just hasn't gotten the dome formed in yet. I actually don't know the size of that, but I think this argument is still going on today. Okay, so now we're going on the way to the Triceratops now. So this is actually related. This is, I think this is an early or lower Cretaceous animal here. This is called the Psittacosaurus. There are more than 400 specimens found, so this is one of the most common found, like, so if, it's probably one of the more abundant finds, you know, like we know a lot about the Psittacosaurus. It's about 2 meters long, so about 6 feet, roughly 45 pounds, and it takes about 10 years to reach maturity, so which is actually quite long. You know, if you think about dogs and cats, they reach maturity about a year or 2 years. They had large brain size, which makes sense because their heads were massive compared to their body, so there's a lot of space for brain. Mostly found in Asia. They were beaked with teeth, which means they have both beak and teeth, which is unique because today things that have teeth, animals that have teeth don't have beaks. Things that have beaks don't have teeth. But it was very common to have both in the dinosaur era. There are 11 different species named of the Psittacosaurus, which is the most of any non-avian dinosaur. Fun fact, they were quadrupedal as babies, so they walked on all 4 legs as babies, and as they grew up and became an adult, they became bipedal, so they would walk on 2 legs as an adult. They lived in large numbers. We keep finding them in packs, so we believe they travel in herds. This is the beginning of the rostral bone. So the rostral is the very beginning of, the very tip, like the beak part of their eating apparatus of their mouth, and this is where that started forming. They changed diet as they grew, and the young had worn teeth. So they changed diet as they grew. I want to go on this little tangent a little bit. The reason this is important is when we dig up bones and we don't know exactly how they acted, so we look at evidence of lifestyle and things. Having the teeth worn and having a different type of diet would typically mean that the babies would go off and venture, like alligators or crocs, would go and eat on their own and hunt for themselves and live alone. But since we find them together, it's really odd that this is the case. It's odd that they would change diet as they grew. I just wanted to add this as well, because since I'm talking about the pack animal, this is a really fascinating thing. It's really hard to see, but this is a bone bed of one, I think this is a juvenile Psittacosaurus here with a bunch of babies. We don't know if they were related, but this may have been an older, I keep hearing the reference as a brother, so I don't know why they know this is male, but apparently this was an older brother that was taking care of a bunch of his little siblings, and a volcano erupted, buried them very abruptly, and gave us an amazing fossil. Sadly, in the fossil world, the worse the death, the better it is for us for a lot of times. But, all right, they also have primitive feathers on the back of their tail. So if you look on the tail, these quills, they're feathers, but they're not like what we imagine today. It's literally just like the center of the feather, so we don't have the filaments coming off the sides, which is also very common in dinosaurs. They have 4 digits on their hands, so 4 fingers, and hands could not rotate. So this is a fun fact with most dinosaurs. You know, like we see people walk around like dinosaurs, like the hands like this, but dinosaurs couldn't actually put their hands forward like this. Most of them are stuck in a chopping motion. So they were choppers, not slappers. You know, like. But Jurassic Park got that wrong, and like because of that, I think most people like they don't realize that. But let's see. Oh, okay. So this might be a little inappropriate. I apologize, but the Psittacosaurus is one of the only things we found a reproductive organ with. So we found a cloaca, and this is an amazingly preserved thing as well. We actually see color as well as skin impressions and other things as well. He said, just a quote, this cloaca is unique but has similar features to living relatives such as crocodilians and other birds. I don't know why other birds is there, but so which means that they probably were mating very similar to the way crocodiles and birds mate today. The outer margins are highly pigmented with color and melanin. Birds are one of the few vertebrates of the groups that occasionally exhibit visual signaling with the cloaca, which means that they're choosing their mate based upon their cloaca, whether it's smell, color, or just flashy sights. And they can now extend this behavior, because we know birds do it, they can now extend this behavior back to the Mesozoic area, which is the dinosaur era. And they said they possibly even found stink glands, but that's really hard to find, to prove. Let's go on. So we have the Archaeoceratops. This is a little bit further up, a little bit bigger head. This is really, I like the vertical view here. We're going to see the shape, like these skulls are starting to just become triangular shaped, and that continues all the way up through the Triceratops. I went backwards. But it means ancient horn face. The frill is starting to form now, possibly for muscle attachments. So if you look at like gorillas and they have this really tall skull, or the sagittal crest, that's for muscle attachments, and it gives them a really high bite force, and we think this is probably what the frill was initially being formed because of it. It's found in Asia, and they begin vertically shearing with their mouths. So vertically shearing means that they only can move their jaws back, forth, up, and down. They can't move it in a rotating thing like what you imagine a cow eating today. They can't move their mouths in circles. They were quadrupedal as babies and bipedal as adults again, and they were about 1 meter long. I say this is interesting. The last one is 2 meters long, and this is 1 meter long, but it's later in time. So I wanted to go off on a little tangent, because this is part of I do another lecture on the Tyrannosaurus, and this is a part of that lecture, and I noticed that from Guanlong to Dailong, they also shrank about half, and I realized that they were both part of the lower Jurassic, so they both existed around the same time, and they both went down. I think there was a very big global cooling event during that time, so everything kind of shrunk down and then became big again. There have only been 2 specimens found of this, so we don't know much about this dinosaur. Going into Leptoceratops, which is a little bit more famous. This is now found in Western North America, so this hits a little closer to home. I think we actually referenced the lepto in the museum here as well. I saw a little thing there. About 2 meters long now, so we're back up to 2 meters, weighing about 100 to 400 pounds. It's hard to tell because we don't know how much muscle they had, or soft tissue. But the frill is getting bigger, and their heads are getting bigger, which is going to be a trend. Now they're almost fully quadrupedal, from baby to adult, and I think it's really got a lot to do with the size of their head. Their teeth are becoming a lot more complex now, and when I say complex, that means that there's different levels of tissue types in the teeth. So as they wear, they're soft, like the outer is softer than the inner core, so as it wears, it stays sharp, or it stays a certain shape throughout its life. And we have a Protoceratops. This is next. Okay, so the Protoceratops is one of the more famous ones for sure. There are over 100 species, specimens found, and very complete. They were about 2 meters long now, so still 2 meters, 6 feet, up to 400 pounds, a little heavier built. Now the beak still contained teeth, so they still had teeth in the front of their mouth. They have 2 sets of teeth. They have the battery in the back, as well as the teeth in the beak. And it's a feature that we'll see later lost in the Ceratopsians. They now have a frill. They don't have horns yet coming out of the frill, but they do have a nice big frill now, found in Asia, with a much larger head. They're also found in large groups, so these are pack animals as well, for sure. They have very powerful jaw muscles. Okay, so now the Zuniceratops. This is not, it's hard to know if this led to the Triceratops, or if this is like a branch off, but it did live, this is, I think, a mid-Cretaceous. Yeah, there we go, mid-Cretaceous animal here, where the Triceratops is late Cretaceous. So this could be, it could have led to the Triceratops. They weigh about 386 pounds. So it's gotten a little, this is actually a lot heavier now, about 3 meters now, a little bit bigger, and it's got now we've got horns. So now we see eyebrow horns, and a little nose horn is there as well. Porsorbital means behind the eyes. Found in Western North America. I think New Mexico is where this was found. It's also the first the first of the horned dinosaurs. It's a close relative, if not a predecessor to the Ceratopsidae. Ceratopsidae is the group of the big body Ceratopsians, which the Triceratops fit into. Let's see, actually right here, this specimen is called Hellboy. This is This was a really difficult one. They found this out of the side of a cliff over a river that was a protected ecosystem. So taking this Hellboy out of the cliff, they actually had to net off for the rubble, and they couldn't. They call it Hellboy for one. They got short eyebrow horns, which is weird because this is really a close relative to the Triceratops. But and it's also found in granite, which is really hard stone. So curating it took forever. Okay, so let's go into the Ceratopsidae. So like I said, this is the large body family. There are many of them. By late Cretaceous, the Ceratopsians made up to 2/3 of their dinosaur ecosystems, and they lived in massive herds. So these guys were very abundant. The Ceratopsidae was made up two lineages, the Chasmosaurinae and the Centrosaurinae. The Centrosaurinae had large eye horns and small nose horns, and the Chasmosaurinae, large eye horns, small nose horns, and the Centrosaurinae had small nose horns and large eye horns. Typically, that's a rule of thumb, though. We've recently found different exceptions, kind of like Hellboy, that wouldn't have fit that, although we know it was part of the Triceratops. So these are the two different sides. You see the Chasmosaurus was really most of the Triceratops. We see Torosaurus there, but in the Centrosaurinae, we have my favorite, the Styracosaurus, which is going to be like a crown of horns around it. It doesn't have any eyebrow horns, but it does have a massive rhino horn on its nose as well. You also have the Pachyrhinosaurus. The Pachyrhinosaurus is really cool. The Pachyrhinosaurus has, instead of a horn on its nose, it has what we call a boss. So it's a knot of bone. So kind of like the Pachycephalosaurus, it was more of head-butting things, pulverizing it as opposed to stabbing it. We also have things like that look like a lot like a Triceratops, which I think this is where it branched off. It's a smaller version of Triceratops. But on this side we have, I think it's the Protoceratops there, which is battling with the Torosaurus and the Protoceratops have the largest skulls ever. We have the Triceratops, which is the famous one, and the Torosaurus there. Okay, so that was a little lengthy, but let's go into what makes the Ceratopsians unique. And we're going to mostly talk about the Triceratops from this. One, it's more studied than anything else, but two, I like the Triceratops, so we're going to talk more about that than anything. Let's begin with the rostral bone. Yeah, the rostral bone. So we're going to find this in all the Ceratopsians. Very pixelated here, apologize, but it's the beak at the very front. So you'll see I think it's the top part of the beak there, but that's the rostral. We also have the jugal. So jugal are like prominent cheekbones. Other dinosaurs did have jugals, but I think this was really unique in how big the jugal spike really was. And if you look at the Psittacosaurus up here, which is the beginning of the jugal bone, these are massive, almost the size of its head. The Protoceratops has them there, lepto here, and yeah, even there. We also have a tooth battery. So this is one of my favorite parts about the Triceratops. They didn't just have teeth. They had shark teeth and a beak. When I say shark teeth, I mean they have rows of teeth. And as the teeth fell out, and as every dinosaur did, they were able to replace teeth. But they were able to replace teeth without leaving gaps, which is really unique, and it's probably a really good successful drive of why they became so successful. We can see pictures of this here. I think this is probably the better picture. There we go. This one here is probably the better picture because we can actually see multiple rows of teeth coming out. All right, and we also have the frill. I guess it's an obvious thing that stands them out against other things. We have a frill on the back of our head. Some of them were kind of boring. This is the Ceratops here, so there's no spikes or anything on the edge of the frill, but some, like the Styracosaurus here, have, once again, a crown of horns. A lot of fancy things going on with their frills. There's also a syncervical. So this is the first three neck vertebrae are fused together to, support their massive weight of the skull. This is a really good image here on the A. This is hard to see because it's kind of a weird angle, but it's really long, and it's actually really big. I think it's a very large bone. Okay, what were the horns and frills used for? Now, it's kind of an argument. You hear it a lot. I think for the most part, we understand that it was really just for sexual display and things like that, but you could also use it for defense. Today, every example of horns, from beetles to bison, are pretty much for display and mating rituals only, although they can also be used for defense. But on the defensive point, some say this is only for defense. It's like some of these horns don't exactly point the way we'd expect it to. Like the Ioneosaurus here has a horn that points almost to the ground. So unless you're like literally axe chopping things, it's not really going to be useful in a fight. Most ceratopsians had a very thin frill as well with a lot of holes in it, sometimes millimeters thin as well, so that really wouldn't do very well in a fight. Although, having that said, the Triceratops has a really thick, robust frill. It kind of stands out in that way. And also on the Triceratops, we see a lot of injury with both teeth marks from Tyrannosaurus as well as horn marks from other Triceratops as well. Plus, those horns were bone, not keratin. So when I say this is a big deal because the bull horns are keratin, or the antlers we think of, like, those are keratin. Triceratops actually had horn, like bone core horns, and they were extremely strong. They were thought to be strong enough to penetrate a car if they wanted, and also maybe even able to lift the car up off the ground without breaking a horn, although we do find broken horns. That did happen. There's also thermal regulation. So we find a lot of evidence of vein canals on the face as well as on the frill. So we think that because of that, it was blood-filled, so it actually probably had a lot to do with the way elephants use their ears to cool off, put off their body heat. I think I think they were doing that a lot with the frills. So I imagine them just like bobbing their head, like while they're eating whatever, just literally just catching air under their frill. Okay, ontogeny. So this is about the end of the lecture, but ontogeny is really unique. So dinosaurs, like I said it a little earlier about the Taranis, they go through almost like secondary metamorphosis when they're growing up. Crazy things that like mammals typically, like the babies might have bigger heads, bigger eyes, but they kind of have the same shape from birth to adult. You can tell a puppy, the difference between a kitten and a puppy. But okay, so let's go with the baby. We have a very kind of not evenly formed frill that's kind of deformed. This could have happened in the ground, but I'm pretty sure that most babies have a very weird, not developed frill there. And then when they get a little bit older, we start seeing some spikes come around the outside. These are not fused yet, so these are essentially forming into the skin around the frill. And you see here their eyebrow horns are coming out now. These guys had little nubs, but these horns are pointing upward. And as they hit sexual maturity, I think this is the sexual maturity one there, but as they get older, we see the horns are still pointing upward, and these things are getting bigger around the frill. And in sexual maturity, going the wrong way, we see that the spikes around the edge of the frill have now fused to the frill itself. And the horns are still growing up and back. And as we get even bigger, we see the edge of the frill there's so much bone getting created that it's actually starting to smooth out. And the horns now are starting to straighten out and point straight forward. And if we continue down the line, a big adult Triceratops back here, the horns are now, after sexual maturity, the horns are now pointing forward and down in front of them as opposed to up and back, which is really cool. This is one of the fascinating things about dinosaurs. Not only did they grow up and get bigger and add bones and things, but their horns changed shape as they grew, which is absolutely fascinating. Okay, that was the lecture. That was the Ceratopsians. I really appreciate everybody coming out. You can find me on social media. My brand is Hobart's Obsessions, and it really covers other things besides just dinosaurs. But dinosaurs are big. It's a massive passion for me, so we're probably going to be hearing a lot more about dinosaurs than anything else. But cryptocurrency is also a big topic on that channel. So yeah, if we have any questions, I am willing to take them. Yeah. Thank you. No, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
On your last slide, you had the Triceratops age thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what museum that was from?
No, I wish I did. I actually tried finding that because I'm trying to do like a tour around and like actually go to these museums and everything. And actually, I hope that one day, I think I could probably get in contact with everything. I hope that one day I could actually find that and answer. But yeah. Okay, well, I appreciate everybody. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah.
No.
You got that? All right. Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again
Yeah,
for
thank
doing
you.
this.
Thank you.
All right, yeah. We are, like I said, we do monthly Dino lectures. We should be doing one next month. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. This is my father, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. First-hand experience right here in Keene, where we get the chance, we get a little lecture in about dinosaurs. We dig up some real fossils. We learn how to use the tools in the prep lab, and y'all get the chance to make your own replicas. So feel free to check that out again at dinosaur.swau.edu. And feel free to check out the Dinosaur Museum. And we'd love to see you guys come on and visit.
Cool. Yeah, and once again, thank you, everybody. Really.